Hey guys, Jessie Schuler here, your local real estate agent in Central Florida, and today we are going to be talking about property management companies. Now, I'm just going to start off by saying that all the information I'm going to give you today is not based really on any particular property management company. Each one's a little bit different in terms of the services they offer, how customizable their packages are, if they even have packages, if they do short term, if they do long term. And the pricing. So what I'm going to be doing is just doing like a little, like an average overall. I am going to use some specific examples on property management companies that I know and have referred in the past. I'm not going to give the names, but I am just going to use them for examples. So it is completely and utterly up to you if you even want to use a property management company, and if you do, which one you use. You certainly have the ability to go to different ones, compare prices, compare plans, and figure out which one works best for you. Now, let's dive into it. So, property management company is, it quite literally explains what it is. A property management company is a company that manages your property. So, when you buy an investment property, you have the option to handle everything yourself in terms of getting it booked, maintaining it, all of that, or you can hire a company to do that, like a property management company. This is very popular to do if you don't live in the area, if you live out of state, or if you just want to be hands off. You don't really want to deal with tenant complaints, you don't want to deal with problems, you don't want to deal with booking, you don't want to deal with any of that. So it's a really good option for people who don't want to be hands on. So in terms of how property management companies work, let's start with long-term rentals because those tend to be a little bit easier. It kind of is self-explanatory that the more the company does for you, the more they're going to charge. So hiring a property management company to manage a short-term rental is going to cost a lot more than a long-term rental. However, it really is up to your preference, right? So like for a short-term rental, you're probably going to make more money, but it's sporadic, and that includes you're levying and kind of balancing the cost of your property management company versus the profit you're making. Certain months are going to be really profitable, others not so much. On the other side, if you're using a property management for a long term, you know the monthly lease is going to be the same. You also know what your property management company is going to charge every month because they charge the same thing throughout the whole year. So usually for a long-term rental, it's pretty standard for a property management company to charge you 10% of whatever the monthly rent is that you come up with. And this includes so all of the payments, like the lease payments, would go to the property management company. You're not really involved in that part. So they would accept the rent payment from whoever is leasing your property. They would take their fee out of it, and then usually on an ACH or direct deposit, they will deposit the money into your bank. It also normally includes some sort of light maintenance. So, and with that, they handle all complaints or calls that a standard tenant has. If something breaks in the or in the condo, townhouse, whatever they're renting, if they just have questions in general, all of that, those questions would all be directed to the property management company. So they handle the customer service aspect of that as well. Also, typically, as long as the maintenance is under a certain price point, they just go in and they fix it themselves. They have their own handyman on staff who goes in and does those kinds of fixes. If it is over a certain price point, normally they will call you, tell you what's going on. You have the option to either use the handyman or services that they have either on staff or that they use and have like some kind of arrangement with, or you can shop around for your own. You can even fix it yourself if you are able to do so. I guess it kind of depends what exactly is going on, but you are more involved at that point. And then also whatever that cost may be, you can either pay it directly or you can have them take it out of your the monthly payment that they make to you for the rent. The other thing, normally what they'll do is, so they'll do, like I said, the standard 10% per month. And then when it comes time for the end of the lease, which I should also mention that they most of them will prepare an actual lease agreement for you that your tenant signs, you get a copy of. So that's all very like standard, kind of like you would have at an apartment complex. They help arrange that for you as well. But normally one time a year, there is going to be an increase in the fee. It's usually, this one's a little harder to pinpoint, but let's say between $100 and $150. And what they do is they will they'll either help renew the lease with the current tenant, or they'll get a new tenant in there for you. They'll clean it, all of that. So that's all included in that 1 per month fee. But just know that if there is any kind of gap between when the current tenant's lease is up and the new one goes in, you're gonna have to pay the difference in the month. So just keep that in mind. Now for a short-term rental, it's a little bit different. It's certainly a lot more hands-on, so it's gonna cost more. So I did happen to print out some paperwork from, like I mentioned, a property management company that I have referred to people in the past. I know that they mostly work in the Kissimmee area, which I have explained on previous videos is one of the most attractive places for families and just people in general to go and stay for their big Disney vacations or theme park vacations. So I kind of used them as a reference point to give you an idea of the services that they offer, the fees associated with it. Now, again, remember, long-term versus short-term is completely different. It is definitely much more of a gamble to do a short-term because you don't know if it's going to get filled, right? So when you go online and you're searching these places, and it's not Airbnb, it's not VRBO, not those types, and it's not an actual hotel or a resort, like if you're like a Sandals resort, it's not like that. But if you go to like, ABC Vacations and they just have a bunch of just like regular homes that, and they give them special names, right? Like the tree house, if there's a lot of trees around it, or you know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. Those are property management companies, and they have created a business for like vacation rentals. And that's all part of short-term rentals. So usually they'll give you a couple different packages, right? And again, this is all really going to depend on how hands-on you want to be and where you're physically located. If you are out of state and you're managing a short-term rental, let's just say you're doing Airbnb, right? Airbnb, you are managing it all yourself. You would not use a property management company to handle the bookings because you're doing it through the Airbnb platform. However, you're still going to need somebody to help with cleaning the property when people are gone, when in between stays, maintenance checks, all those kinds of things, you still need help with that. So property management companies for short-term can be used in different ways, and they have different packages for it. So I'm just gonna give you, again, just like an example. I printed these off their webpage, but some of the things, so they'll have different packages. So usually it's a percentage of, kind of like with the long-term rental, it's normally around 10%. Well, for the individual bookings, you're probably going to be paying between like 15 and 20%. And that's just for the management portion of what the property management does. So that's going to be, they're going to manage all the reservations. So their job would be to fill it. Now, again, this is not Airbnb. This is not VRBO. It's not those platforms. This is if you hired this property management company to essentially be your Airbnb, if that makes sense. Like they're the ones who are responsible for filling it. So they're going to take between 15 and 20% per booking for the work they've done to fill it. It's also, most of these places will have their own platform that you can log into. You can see the days that are already booked. You can see, monthly statements of, the rates that people are staying at, because for short-term rentals, depending on the time of the year that you go, it's going to cost more in certain months than it is in others. So typically in Florida, and the nice thing about having an investment property in Florida is that there is no winter. Like there's only really one time of the year where it's not the most ideal time to come and vacation, and that's during hurricane season. So you're talking like August, September, and that's about it. So so your rates during those times are going to be less, and the rest of the year they're going to be higher. So you got to keep that in mind as well. Also, usually if you're doing a short-term rental and using a property management company, they will say that you need to stay, like they'll have a minimum number of days stays, like it's a minimum of 3 days or a minimum of a week, very common. So again, these are the things that when you're deciding what company you want to use and exactly what services you want, those are the questions you're going to want to ask and the things you're going to want to make sure, because if you really want people to be able to stay for 1 or 2 days, you got to make sure your property management company allows for it. So something to keep in mind. So like I said, they'll usually have their own software where you can go in and you can see the days that are booked. If you yourself want to stay, you can mark them off. Obviously, you don't have to pay, but you can mark them off for a future vacation with you and your family. Cleaning services between the bookings, very important. Have to clean after every single person is in there. Maintaining proper licenses for the rentals. 24-hour guest and maintenance line. So again, if people have questions, I don't know if you've ever used an Airbnb, but sometimes you have questions maybe about the Wi-Fi or about what's local, and the host has said you can contact them anytime. Well, same thing here, 24 hours, guest maintenance, you can call and ask any questions that you have. Like I said, monthly statements, your own owner portal to view your calendar, view statements, set your personal stays. Coordinate maintenance services as needed. Property inspections, you still need someone to look at your house and make sure that nothing's on the fritz, nothing's maybe broken that the guest didn't tell you about, because you certainly don't want something to be broken and more people come and stay, and then they're not going to leave a good review because things aren't working properly. It has to be inspected pretty regularly. Pay the tourist tax. Have to do that. This is technically a business that you're running, so you have to pay tourist tax. And managing all guest needs and services. So that's just like a typical package. Also, kind of like I mentioned with the long-term rental, where you're paying like that monthly percentage, but you're also paying a one-time fee. The short-term rental property management companies are also going to charge a one-time package fee. They'll also charge a restocking fee for like toilet paper and paper towel, things like that. Yeah, so that's kind of like an overview of a lot of things that are included in those packages. Also, one other thing is a lot of these companies will include damage protection. And they will also cover paying background checks for your guests, because you don't know who's staying at your house. Sometimes you really do want that extra security to make sure there's not going to be an issue. These companies provide that for you. So this particular company offers up to $10,000 in damage protection. You certainly want to ask about that if you choose to use it. Again, this is specifically for short-term rental. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say complicated, but it's a little bit more in-depth when you're talking short-term rental, because you have a lot more turnover, you have a lot more people in your house, and a lot of things that can go wrong, a lot of things that can happen. So you want to make sure that you're covered in every aspect. So some other things that you can add on is pest service, and this isn't, I'm not talking like termites or WDO, which is wood destroying organisms. I'm talking like, there's a lot of mosquitoes here in Florida. So maybe like once a month you want like a mosquito spray done, or you want your lawn, let the outside of the house sprayed. Make sure there's any insects that get in the house. You can add a pest service fee for that. You can also do a lawn service fee. This one's really popular. Even people who live local will hire lawn service fees. So that's going to include mowing the grass weekly. It has to be done weekly here in Florida. It's hot. The grass grows quickly. Weed eating around the trees and shrubs, trimming of hedges, weeding of flower beds. You can also do additional lawn care if you have things specifically. All of these things are customizable, which is really great. Another thing is additional cleaning services. So like washing all the linen, dusting all the furniture, cleaning and sanitizing the bathrooms, washing all the tile and vinyl floors, extensive cleaning. I'm not just talking about like a quick clean between guests, like deep cleaning. You can pay for those services as well. And then the other really big one that's going to be important here is a pool guy. I guess I should say a pool person, but you're going to need someone to maintain the pool. And quite frankly, with the lawn and pool service, and this is just me giving a recommendation, if I were doing a long-term rental, I would include the lawn and pool service in your monthly rent and add those fees onto your rent, because the last thing you want, I guess it's not as big of a deal with the lawn. However, if it is within an HOA and they have restrictions, as I mentioned in the last video, some HOAs are very particular. Your lawn cannot be overgrown, so you don't want to put that kind of responsibility on the person who's leasing your home, because you don't know how responsible they are. And quite frankly, if they don't do it, they don't get punished, you get punished. You will get a lien put on your house. You don't want that. And you certainly don't want someone responsible for your pool if they've never had a pool before and they don't really know what they're doing. So just a little recommendation. It is perfectly legal and perfectly acceptable to advertise your home for a long-term rental and add those lawn and pool maintenance fees onto your rent, and that's your, and then you just advertise it as it's included. Not to mention, you make them feel kind of fancy because they get a pool guy and a lawn guy, or a pool person and a lawn person that's coming in to every week to maintain their, where they're residing. So you're looking at, and like cost-wise for that kind of thing, again, it's really gonna depend, but you're roughly going to pay around $100 a month for each of those. That's kind of what you're looking at. So there are really a lot of things that you can add into these packages. Like I said, a lot of them are customizable, but just know, especially with the short-term rentals, you add up these fees and it's expensive. It's a lot. However, you're making much more money on a short-term rental than a long-term rental. Especially if you have a mortgage, right? Like you didn't pay for the property in cash, you are, you have a mortgage you need to pay. Well, normally a lot of the homes lease for about, let's just say on average, $1,000 a week. So if you have it booked for 4 weeks, let's just say on average, you're making about $4,000 a month. That is a lot more than the long-term rental where you're making, depending on, again, it depends on the size, right? what do they say? The average, a good way to estimate is 1% of the home value, right? So if it's, just like for easy math sake, if your house is worth $200,000, you would be renting it for $2,000 a month. And that's just like a general idea starting point. But that's $2,000 a month versus $4,000 a month. It's certainly a give and take. It certainly depends on, and like I said, you might choose not to use a property management for anything. Or let's say you want to advertise it on Airbnb. So you wouldn't be paying the 15 to 20% per month admin fee that they have, because you're handling all the bookings. You would just pay the one-time package fee, which is like $100 a year or something like that. But that's going to be for like the cleaning services, and they would handle all of the payments and all of that. So the moral of this is it's very customizable. Definitely do your research, talk to multiple property management companies, see how much experience they have. Also, if you're not really sure where to turn, first of all, I can refer you to plenty of property management companies, but know that a lot of brokers have their own property management division. So if you have a real estate agent that you work with, I would just ask your agent if their broker has a property management company that they work with, or if they can refer you. Most agents have a few property management contacts on hand to refer to. So you certainly have some options. But that's all I have for you guys today. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions on this topic or any of the other topics I have covered in previous videos, please leave those in the comments, and let's see what Shute can do for you. Until next time.